Britain is going to fight China, but don't worry, we'll have Australia fighting alongside us. I promise you, it'll be a different outcome than the Opium Wars.
U.S. is trying to provoke China into a major war, and I don't want anything to do with it.
But what the actual F have we got to do with Taiwan? Taiwan, Taipei, where is it? What is it? Do you eat it? Do you lick it?
Consider what happens if we're stupid enough, and I mean stupid, to provoke a wider war with Russia and China as well as Iran. That makes no sense at all. We're not prepared for that.
NATO thinks it can fight China. They couldn't be more delusional. And if you still believe the West will win any future conflict with China, you're not just wrong, you're operating on Cold War nostalgia and geopolitical fantasy. Let's start with the obvious. NATO was never designed for this. It was built to stop Soviet tanks in the Fulda Gap, not to project power across 8,000 miles of ocean into China's backyard. Yet, here we are. Top US commanders are now openly talking about a two-front war by 2027, one in Europe, one in the Pacific. And NATO's plan? To have Europe hold the line while the US handles China. Yeah, good luck with that. Europe's defense spending, let's talk about it. It's still averaging below 2% of GDP, despite years of American pressure to hit 5%. The US spends more on defense than the next 10 countries combined, and half of NATO can't even meet its own targets. And let's not pretend this is about principle. China is the EU's second largest trading partner. Germany depends on Chinese EV batteries. France sells wine to Beijing. Italy is still in the Belt and Road Initiative. So when push comes to shove, who do you think they'll really back? Principles or profits? We'll see.
Stoltenberg, NATO has been vocal in identifying China as a threat. The Vilnius Summit Declaration states that China is trying to subvert the so-called rules-based international order and criticizes China for being opaque about its strategy and intentions. Now, my first question is, how is it possible to subvert an order that has no constitution, no basis whatsoever in international law? And if you think it does, in fact, appeal to or have a standing in international law, why then do NATO and NATO members repeatedly violate international law without any consequence? Yugoslavia, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, for example. China has not illegally invaded and bombed a sovereign country in over 40 years, while the US and our allies have hardly stopped in the same period, killing millions of civilians, displacing millions more, and illegally sanctioning dozens of countries to the point where tens of thousands of men, women and children are extrajudicially executed each year for simply existing in a country targeted by Western imperialism. Is it not time to return to multilateral international forums based on diplomacy and international law, like China has repeatedly urged the US to do?
We don't regard China as an adversary, but we are concerned about the challenges that China poses to our values, to our interests, and to our security. China doesn't share our values. They don't believe in freedom of speech, democratic values, and they have expressed that quite clearly. They crack down on journalists, on opposition, on dissidents across the country. We have seen how they have cracked down on democratic rights in Hong Kong. We see how they are threatening Taiwan, and we see how China is investing heavily in modern nuclear weapons, more military capabilities, and also long-range missiles, and how they also work more and more closely together with Russia.
Now let's talk about China's military, because the narrative is all wrong in my opinion. China isn't expanding for aggression, it's countering encirclement. Officially, China's military budget is $246 billion in 2025. That sounds big until you realize the US spends $886 billion, and they want to increase that to $1 trillion. But here's what the Pentagon doesn't want you to know. When adjusted for purchasing power, China's real military spending is closer to $471 billion. And unlike the US, which wastes trillions on cost overrun programs, China actually delivers on time, on budget, and at scale. They've reorganized their forces into unified theater commands, joint operations that actually work. No inter-service rivalry, no bureaucratic gridlock, just execution. And their doctrine? Active defense, which means don't start a war, but if you do, we'll end it fast and on our terms.
But what the actual F have we got to do with Taiwan? Taiwan, Taipei, where is it? What is it? Do you eat it? Do you lick it? Do you drive it? Taipei, your son may die in defense of Taipei. What madness is this? A Labour government, a British government that is about to abolish the old age pension as it has been known for a century because we can't afford to pay it. You're going to get a quarter of it when you're 67, and you're going to get the balance when you're 72 because we can't afford to pay it. We couldn't afford the cold weather payments for our old age pensioners during last year's bitter winter. We don't have the money. What madness is this? A country that is on its knees whilst handing over billions of pounds to the thief of Kiev, spending millions of pounds, flying reconnaissance missions for a genocide in Gaza, is going to go to war with China, the People's Liberation Army, the most gigantic army the world has ever known, the People's Liberation Navy, the biggest navy the world has ever known. 1.5 billion Chinese. Where do you think you are? Up the Yangtze? Do you know what happened? Healy, the last time Britain sailed a warship up the Yangtze, the Chinese sunk it in 1949. And China is, by a scale unfathomable, more powerful, more wealthy, more numerous in 2025. And you little runt, are using our country's name to threaten China with war. What kind of madness is this?
Now, here's a real reason NATO can't win. China has turned the Western Pacific into a kill zone. China has DF-26 carrier killer missiles with 4,000 kilometer range, can hit US bases in Guam and aircraft carriers at sea. They also have the DF-17 hypersonic glide vehicle, which travels at Mach 5, maneuvers mid-flight, evades every current missile defense system, and of course integrated surveillance networks. Satellites, drones, radar, and electronic warfare all feed in real-time targeting data. Any US or NATO force entering the first island chain, Taiwan, the Philippines, Okinawa, does so at extreme risk. And Europe, its navy can't even get there. A British frigate showing up in the South China Sea isn't a deterrent. It's a target.
I'm wondering if this is at all dawning on the American public.
Oh, I think it has. And that's why I say Americans are increasingly convinced that the ballot box does not work. Now, that's very dangerous, George, if you stop and think about that for a minute. I mean, those of us who are serious about our American citizenship, those of us who have served our country, I mean, there are millions of us, and to finally conclude that voting is an utterly pointless affair means that our republic, for all intents and purposes, is a facade, a fraud. That's a very dangerous place to be. That is more and more widely accepted inside the United States. This bodes ill, especially as you go into a financial crisis and stop and consider what happens if we're stupid enough, and I mean stupid, to provoke a wider war with Russia and China as well as Iran. That makes no sense at all. We're not prepared for that. We don't have the missile stocks. We don't have the munitions factories. We don't have the production base. And yet I hear the popular propaganda that comes out of the administration is China, that's the real enemy. They harmed us. We lost our production base to China. Well, China didn't rob us of our manufacturing base. That was the CEO class and their shareholders. They shipped it overseas. They were the ones that destroyed America's middle class. but that plays well. I don't know how much longer it will play well, but that's the sort of thing people are resorting to try and hold things together.
Now, the nuclear question. NATO still operates on Cold War logic, massive retaliation, mutually assured destruction. China? It's playing a different game. By early 2024, China had over 600 operational warheads, and that number is on track to exceed 1,500 by 2035. More importantly, many can reach the continental US, and they're not hiding. They're building modern ICBM silos in the desert, hundreds of them in plain sight. And here's another thing. Russia is reportedly helping China produce plutonium for more warheads. This is about achieving credible, usable nuclear options, especially in a Taiwan scenario. China sees them as part of a ladder of escalation, not a cliff.
China is not having now 4 of its defense companies in the top 10 defense companies worldwide only because of the parades in Beijing. They might want to do some stuff with their military capabilities going forward. And we know the risks we run with Taiwan, and that if that would happen, that obviously Xi Jinping will call his junior colleague in the Kremlin and tell him, hey, Vladimir, I back you up so much now, and you know who is really in power in this relationship. It's not you, it's the one on this side of the line. Can you keep them busy in Europe? So that's China, Russia.
Let's talk about the war no one wants to admit matters most, the economic war. NATO's collective GDP is bigger, sure, but China controls the supply chain. 80% of rare earth processing, 70% of lithium refining, 60% of global microchip packaging. In a prolonged conflict, who runs out of missiles first? The US, which can't make its own guidance systems? Or China, which owns the factories that make the components? And let's be real, the West runs on just-in-time logistics. No chips, no cars, no phones, no military drones. China? It's been stockpiling, building redundancy, and decoupling from Western tech for years. Huawei didn't need TSMC. SMIC is now producing 7nm chips. And yes, they're good enough. So when NATO talks about sanctions, China just laughs and says, try living without us.
中俄之间的合作既不针对第三方，也不受第三方干扰影响。北约是冷战产物和全球最大军事同盟，到处煽风点火、挑乱生战，是名副其实的战争机器。近年来，北约突破自身条约规定的地理范畴，越界扩权，已引起地区国家高度警惕。我们坚决反对北约拿中国当借口东进亚太，要求北约反躬自省，改弦易辙，多为世界安全稳定做点好事。
So why will NATO lose? Because NATO is broken. It has no unified command for the Indo-Pacific. Its members have conflicting economic interests. Its military doctrine is 20 years behind. And its political will? Well, fragile, divided, easily manipulated. China, on the other hand, has a clear strategic objective: secure its periphery, a coherent military doctrine, A2AD joint operations, escalation dominance, and a state that can execute without needing 32 countries to agree. The question for NATO isn't just how to deter China, but how to adapt to a world where its traditional dominance is no longer guaranteed. Denial isn't just a river in Egypt, it's a dangerous strategy in geopolitics. Is NATO ready? Or is China's rise an unstoppable force? Let us know your thoughts below. Like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, bye.